It's Jack from B&T MacFarlane, and today we're going over the top 10 safety tips when you're using your tractor. So let's get into it. Whether you're a new tractor owner or a veteran tractor operator, it's always good to brush up on some safety tips. That's why we're making the video today. The weather's getting a lot nicer. I'm pretty sure it's the first day in about 6 or 7 months I haven't had to wear a winter jacket. So that's a really nice change. That also means we're coming into the spring and summer season where a lot of you guys are going to be getting brand new tractors for the very first time, and you might be unsure on how to safely operate your tractor or some tips to keep safe if you're using it, your kids using it, or anyone else does happen to be around the tractor while you're operating it yourself. So by far the most important thing you have to remember when you're operating a tractor to do it safely is to remember to wear your seatbelt at all times. Whether you're using a front mount mower like this or a small subcompact tractor or even a big 100 horsepower hobby farm tractor, always make sure you're wearing your seatbelt. Rollovers in tractors, they do happen, and they happen extremely quickly. You're never going out on your tractor and anticipating a rollover. You could just be driving along your property with your loader up a little bit too high, your front tire hits a hole, and it just shifts the tractor in a way that makes it unbalanced, and you could flip your tractor. So always make sure you're having your seatbelt on. Goes in conjunction with the seatbelt, always make sure you have your roll bar up. So this is a rollover protective system. That's what it stands for. You'll also hear people call it a ROPS bar on the internet. Make sure this is always in the upright position with the pins through it. If the pins aren't through it, then it's not gonna actually support the weight of the tractor. And this roll bar, again, it is designed to support the entire weight of the tractor. So if you do flip your tractor or roll it over and you have your seatbelt on, this will keep you perfectly safe. Just don't try and stick your leg out if the tractor does flip. So if you're flipping the tractor, just kind of hang on and go for the ride. As bad as that sounds, it's the safest thing you can do in an event like that. And in terms of safety for the tractor, if you do roll over your tractor, once it's flipped over, it might still run. So the first thing you're gonna do is turn off that engine and turn off that key right there, and hopefully it will stop soon for you. Now we're going to talk about some loader safety. I did make an entire video dedicated to loader safety. I'll link that up above right here or right there. I can never remember what side those go on. So for loader safety, the biggest thing you're going to have to remember is to keep the bucket extremely low to the ground, as low as possible when you're going from point A to point B with a load in the front bucket. The higher you raise your front loader with, say, a pile of gravel or some dirt, the more unbalanced your tractor is going to become. Like I mentioned before, if you're carrying your loader too high, like way up here, and you're driving across your yard and you hit a hole with your front tire, you could throw the tractor completely out of balance and flip your tractor extremely quickly. Where if you keep the load a lot lower, your center of gravity is also going to be lower, making your tractor a lot more stable if you do hit some uneven ground on your property. And that goes for anything, whether you're using a set of pallet forks, a grapple, a bucket. All those implements have to stay really low to the ground, even if they're empty. This bucket alone, it weighs 400 or 500 pounds just by itself, and you can get some heavier grapples or some heavier attachments out on the front of these tractors. So you want to make sure that these, again, are really low to the ground, even if they're empty and a lot lighter than they would be. Next up on the safety list is proper ballast for your tractor. This tractor might not look like it right now. You might think it doesn't have any ballast on it whatsoever, but it does. It actually has fluid in the tires weighing it down. So when you're using a tractor with a front end loader, you're gonna need some kind of rear counterweight or rear ballast that sits on the back of the tractor. There's a couple different options you can go with. You can put a ballast box on the 3-point hitch, which holds weight, crushed stone or concrete, which acts as a lever. So when you use your front loader, it doesn't pick up the back tires and make the back end extremely light. So a rear counterweight for a ballast box. You could also put an implement back here if there's a snowblower, a box scraper, or any 3-point hitch implement for the size of tractor will have more than enough weight to be adequate ballast. You can also do things with the tires as well. You can fill them with fluid like this one here, or you can also put wheel weights on the dish of the tire as well. Some smaller tractors, this isn't really an option because the dish is a little bit too small and it doesn't have the right bolt holes in order to mount the weights. That also goes for filling them with fluid. If you have a BX series tractor, the tire is physically not big enough in the rear to hold enough fluid to properly weigh it down at the back. So for those sizes of tractors, your only option would to be put an implement back here or put a rear ballast box. Next, we're going to talk about tire choice. You might not think that this is a safety related topic, but it most definitely is. You want to make sure that you're getting the right tire for your application, and that usually comes right at the time of purchase. You want to look at what kinds of things you're going to be doing with your tractor and see what type of tire makes the most sense for you. If you're going into the deep dark woods, over rocks, over logs, or on steep slopes, you want to have a good tire with a 6-ply sidewall. You want to kind of stick away from a turf tire that's going to have a thinner sidewall, because if you go on a slope, it's going to cause bulging and you're going to slide down that hill and potentially flip your tractor or put yourself in an unsafe position. Just like this tractor here, these have Nepean snow tires on them because we sell a lot of these bigger M6 tractors into commercial snow applications. So an agricultural tire or an industrial tire really wouldn't be the best suited for this kind of application. A good snow tire is definitely the best option for something like this. Now we're going to talk about some implement safety and making sure that you're matching up the implement to the size of the tractor that you're using and make sure it's well within the rated operating capacity. We're going to start up front with the set of pallet forks. You want to make sure that your forks are rated for well over the capacity of your front end loader. And that's just because you don't want to put the forks in a position where they're really not rated for the type of loads you're going to be carrying. So these forks here, they're rated for 900 pounds, and this BX loader will lift about 600-700 pounds at the maximum capacity. So these are well within the specs for it. But where it can get dangerous is if you were going to go put these forks on an L6060 that can lift 2,000 pounds with a set of forks on it, you can actually snap or bend these forks, which will drop whatever you're carrying. But worse, if these forks snap, the ends of them can go flying and hit somebody who's around the outside of the tractor. So on those types of tractors, you want to have 4,000 or 5,000 pound forks just to make sure that you're within that safety range. Then on the back of the tractor, you want to make sure that you're getting the proper 3-point hitch implements for your tractor. It's not so much going too small. That doesn't really put you in a dangerous position. It just might be a little bit inefficient for the size of tractor you have. It's when you go too big that can be dangerous, especially on a BX series tractor. We see people with these big tillers that they get off of Facebook Marketplace or Kijiji that are definitely way too big for the tractor. Not only can they damage the tractor themselves, they're not going to perform properly, but they can also add a whole bunch of weight to the back of the tractor that when you go to pick it up with the 3-point hitch, sometimes it can pick up the front tires of the tractor, and you definitely do not want your implements to do that. Whenever you're looking at getting an implement, even if it's not from the dealership, call a dealership and see if it's well within the specs, or go onto the Land Pride or Kubota website. They do have charts that show what each size of implement is rated for. If you're someone who's going to be using their tractor on a lot of hilly or uneven terrain, getting a set of wheel spacers for the back of your tractor might be a worthwhile consideration. They're going to widen out the stance at the back and give you a lot more stability when you're going on uneven terrain or hills. Carrying a load with your front loader, or even carrying around 3-point hitch implements, they do add a lot of stability. So on smaller tractors, there's options for wheel spacers, but once you get up to the L60 series, the dish on the tires themselves are able to flip in and out to different configurations to widen and narrow the tractor depending on your application. This is probably the most important safety tip in the entire video. When you're using a PTO driven 3-point hitch implement, they all have to have this plastic PTO cover. What this does is it allows the PTO shaft to spin independently from this cover underneath this PTO guard. So if it wasn't there, you would see a spinning PTO shaft, and if you get your jacket or your shirt or your pants caught in there, these PTO shafts, they're extremely strong when they spin and they go super fast. They would suck you into the shaft in half a second. So these guards are there to protect you just in case you do hit it or somebody brushes up against it. But an even better practice to completely avoid that is to stay far away from this kind of area when the tractor is running and the PTO shaft is spinning. If you have a snowblower back here or a rotary cutter, you probably don't want to be back here anyways while it's operating. So you just want to stay clear away from that. And if you do buy an implement that doesn't have this guard, make sure you do get one, and get one from your local dealer, because it does add a lot of safety to the back here. If you're operating the tractor and there's people all around you, you have to keep a good eye on your surroundings and where people are at all times around you. On a tractor like this, it's not so bad. It's completely open. You have perfect visibility all around you, but there are some pieces of equipment that are a little bit harder to see out of. For example, a bigger tractor with a cab and you're in a snowstorm, it's not the easiest thing to see out of those windows. So you always want to keep an eye on what's around you as best you can. Or if you're operating a skid steer, I know a lot of skid steers you can really only see in front of you and a little bit to the sides. They have gone better. A lot of them come standard with cameras and mirrors and all that kind of stuff to make it a little bit safer. But just keep an eye what's around you when you're operating. If you see anyone walking towards you as well, if you're operating a snowblower or rotary cutter, just turn off that PTO shaft as a good safety measure before they come up close to the tractor. And again, if you see someone operating a tractor, don't run right towards them while they're using the tractor. Wait until they see you first. Always make eye contact with the operator of the tractor before you walk in front or go behind the moving vehicle, because a lot of the time they might not see you. Lastly, we're going to talk about some more implements and ensuring that you know how to properly use them before you go out into the field and on your property and actually start using them in a real world application. Talk with your salesman and your dealer. Make sure you get proper training on what are the ins and outs of the certain implement. Whether you're using a snowblower, a grapple, or rotary cutter, there are some specific safety features and kind of lessons and tips and tricks that each implement has that would be way too much to put in a single video. But call your local dealership. They'd be more than happy to help you. And that's where we're going to end it for today's video. If you have any safety tips of your own, make sure to leave them down below in the comments. And as always, if you're enjoying the videos, remember to like and subscribe. And if you need help with part sales or service, give us a call at 613-225-0555. Thank you.